Good afternoon, and welcome to Purchase Broadcast Studios. I'm your host, Alvarez Pickett. Dating can be tricky for anyone, but imagine navigating first dates, awkward silences, and trying to find that special connection while also processing the world through a completely different lens. That's the heart of Love on the Spectrum, a Netflix docuseries that's captured the attention of viewers around the world for its warm, honest, and sometimes awkward look at love and relationships for people on the autism spectrum. What makes this show stand out isn't just the unique perspective. It's the raw sincerity, the unfiltered emotions, and the refreshing reminder that everyone, no matter how different their journey may be, deserves to be seen, heard, and loved. For many people on the spectrum, this is the first time they are so blatantly recognized outside of incredibly scripted television shows. Reality TV has often neglected these people for a number of reasons, often citing a lack of ability to work with the accommodations necessary, or fear that seeing the more socially unacceptable side of the disorder may make both viewers and other participants uncomfortable. The show not only features autistic adults being authentically themselves, but specifically highlights autistic individuals of a wide variety of support needs, from people who live independently and have degrees, to those who still live at home and receive support from their close friends and family. Co-producer of the show, Kyan O'Cleary, has made a mission with this and his other projects to help break down the negative stigma attached to people with disabilities and expose people to the struggles that these people go through in their everyday life. Joining us today after a watch party of the recently released third season are Madeline, Sharkey, and Regulus Thompson, here to dive into the impact of the show, what it gets right about representation, and why it's resonating so deeply with audiences. Maddie, Reg, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So right off the bat, let's start with, how did you guys feel watching the show? Like, what was parts that stood out to you? What were you surprised by?
Personally, I was really enjoying it. It was super entertaining without making fun of people on the spectrum, which is honestly something that I thought was going to happen just because of what I've seen, some people saying online. I thought it was going to be a little bit less representative and more just like look at these people and how they interact with each other, but it felt really true and like kind towards them, and I'm really happy that they've like found each other. Even the ones that didn't work out that still had good experiences, I'm happy that they had that experience.
Reg?
Yeah, I feel very similarly. I saw a lot of talk about it online before I watched any of the seasons, and it was concerning what I saw online, mostly just people's reactions. I assumed it was going to be much harsher to the people involved than it was, and I was really happy at how authentic it felt and just what a good experience everybody seems to be having on the show. It was a very nice show to watch, yeah.
Speaking full of bias, my favorite person on the show was Connor and his girlfriend, that is now current girlfriend, Georgie. They have been together for almost a year now. Did you guys have a favorite person that was featured on the show? Reg?
Oh, yeah. I also loved Connor. I loved like all of the moments we had following him. He's so sweet and so sincere, and I loved hearing all of the things he had to say, if that makes sense. Like every time he would say something, I was like, you're so right, King, actually. I also loved Danny. Oh my God, she's incredible. The fact that she's an animator is like, I love how in love she is with what she does. And that's just so incredible to see on a reality TV show. Like normally it doesn't show what people do for a living, like what they work for. And it's so cool to see somebody so passionate about her career.
Yeah, I agree. I also do love them, but personally, Abby will have all the love of my heart no matter what. It's so hard not to love her, and David as well. Obviously, them together, they're like power couple, power team. But I watch a lot of Abby's content through like TikTok as well, and so watching her on the show was just really fun, and I relate to her a lot. Just she's unfiltered in like a kind and nice way that I'm just like, girl, yeah. I'm like, yeah, say your truth, and I feel like she doesn't upset anybody, she's making anybody feel uncomfortable, and I'm like, yeah, you're so sweet for that. Like even though she has strong opinions, she still is nice about it.
So obviously you guys saw this at a watch party. I was there. How do you think the experience was different having to watch this with a group of people rather than just like isolating? Were there any reactions that surprised you? What was the energy like?
I think it's always more fun to watch something with a group of people generally. A lot of the times your reactions are more dramatic when you're with other people, and people's reactions feed your reaction. I know that like when we would watch a date go wrong, there'd be an audible like, "Aw," or like, "Oh no," as like things started happening that I feel like you don't really get when you're watching by yourself. You just kind of might maybe let out a little at something. Instead, when you're with a group of people, you're actually laughing. Like, I feel like it's a really good way to experience television in general.
I completely agree. I'm a big advocate for group watching anything. I struggle to focus when I watch things by myself, and so I feel like watching this show with other people, they held me accountable for actually paying attention, and that made me appreciate the show more and understand the relationships that they were in, and I don't think that I would have gotten that if I was by myself.
Now, all of us having gone to SUNY Purchase and being in our 20s, we have definitely had interactions with people. On the spectrum, Maddie, I knew you in particular have worked with kids on the spectrum. How did it feel seeing a more raw and authentic look at that on the screen and in somewhere as big as a Netflix-produced show?
It was great to see. Honestly, I've been around autistic adults as well, growing up, but especially working with the kids. They get bullied a lot, and I've had to punish and reprimand students for treating autistic kids differently, and it always made me worried about their future. I had a specific kid 2 years ago that I haven't seen since I stopped working there, but I was always very concerned with how he was going to interact with people because of how he was treated. And so seeing a show like this, I was glad to see that in adult life that they are managing and able to fully be themselves and have passions and have people in their lives and their families that supported them. And I just really, it gives me hope for the students that I work with for their future.
Yeah, I think it's a really wonderful representation, especially on such a big platform, especially one that hosts so many other reality TV shows. I know that there's a lot of like trash reality TV on Netflix, and this show didn't feel like that. It felt more like a genuine look into just people's lives and how they live in a genuine and authentic way that is really special, I think, because there's not a lot of great representation for autistic people in the media, and I think a show that focuses just on everyday, regular love lives of autistic people is very special.
So I know when I was watching it, seeing Connor start to have a meltdown in front of his family and his family talk him through that was very surprising for me to see personally, because oftentimes things like that are dramatized on television. What comes to mind is the Good Doctor with the I am a surgeon meme. Was there anything that surprised you that they did show during the special, or was there anything you weren't expecting?
Yes, I'm forgetting his name, but when Madison was on her first date,
Yes.
the person she was on a date with, he was uncomfortable with the restaurant, I believe, that they were sitting in. It was overstimulating for him. And instead of it being like a very dramatic thing of like, oh no, the date's going terribly and like, what is going to happen now? They just were like, we're sorry. Production was like, we're sorry that it's louder in here than we expected. Let's move outside. And then they just moved outside and they continued the date. And I feel like that's something that I would have expected to have been a very dramatized moment of like, Madison's realizing she can't be on this date anymore and like, oh no, what's going on? And like, how terrible. And instead it was just okay, this is happening. Let's take a break. Let's make sure you're comfortable. Let's make sure Madison's comfortable, and let's move to a different location and continue. And I feel like it was a very mature way of handling a situation when reality TV shows are known to take the immature route.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was shocked to see like how blatant the rejections were and how well they had handled it with each other. Because when I was watching, it was my first time ever seeing anything from the show that wasn't like a clip on TikTok. And on TikTok, I'd never seen any of the rejections or like ending of the dates. So if somebody wasn't feeling a spark with the other person, that they were just so easily like, I don't feel it, I'd like to be friends. And the other person was like, agreed, okay. And it seemed so real, which I'm sure that it was. I saw online that it wasn't scripted at all. And that was so refreshing to see after watching so many shows like The Bachelor and just things like that, where everything is so obviously scripted and there's, retakes and you should say this instead of this. So seeing a real raw reaction from two people on a real date with each other was just nice to see.
And again, to bring up the watch party, I know that after it was over, there was a lot of discussion happening about like the good of the show, the bad of the show, What was something that you specifically took away after watching that, and what is something that you would tell people about the show, with that person having never heard anything about it before?
I would tell them to watch it. Definitely, that was my first thought. Is just this was a great show. They're going to be producing more seasons, I assume, and that you should start watching now and start following up with them before more comes out. And then I also just like taking away from it was just how real TV can be, and it gave me hope for like a possibility of more TV being that way and more media representing people on the spectrum and just neurodivergent people in general as well, not just with autism, but like with other disorders. I think that it gives a really bright look at what TV could be in the future, and I really hope that it stays with that.
And you?
I so agree. I would definitely tell people, like, watch the show. It's worth the watch. It's a very enjoyable show to watch. But I would also say, don't expect it to be The Bachelor. Don't expect it to be, what is that one British one? The Island one. Love Island. Don't expect it to be like any of those type of shows, because those shows are much faker than what you're going to see. You're going to see a look into people's lives and the way that they live in a way that you don't feel like there's a film crew there, which I find very interesting. It doesn't feel like you're following actors, if that makes sense, like it does with a lot of these other TV shows. And I think it's very special. I think it's a very good show to exist in general, and I'm very happy that it's on a platform as big as Netflix, so that many people will have the opportunity to watch it.
Yeah. Is there something that you think, because the show, again, it showcases a lot of different people from a lot of different places across the United States, and there's also an Australian version produced by also Kyan O'Cleary. Do you think that it's important for young people, specifically like us who are moving into the workforce, who may have limited experiences engaging with people on the spectrum, to see something like this? Do you think that this is like a more palatable form almost for younger people to see it in?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think it is for certain people who might not have ever had experiences with autistic people in their life. I think it's almost a good teaching guide of like, hey, autistic people are just like you. They can have jobs, they can like live regular lives, they can fall in love, which is like the point of the show, is that showing autistic people's love life in general and just being people. And I think that's really important for people our age who honestly have a tendency to bully people for being any form of different. And I think showing, especially our generation, that people are just people, and although you might have to take different approaches to interacting with autistic people, here's how to do it, here's how to be respectful, and here's how to work with them in a professional environment.
Absolutely. And Maddie, our last response before we start wrapping up.
Yes, I completely agree. I think in our generation, with growing up with the media and people being so mean because the internet became huge as we were growing up, that everyone's so mean and that the representation of every single type of person is so warped through the internet, that seeing real people on screen is going to be very helpful to all of us.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Maddie and Reg. And once again, I am your host, Alvarez Pickett with Purchase Broadcast Studios. I hope you enjoyed your time with us, and we'll see you again soon.